Terry, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Easton Kiwanis and to share some Kiwanis information with you. Our defining statement is Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. Kiwanis is an Indian word that broadly translates into we trade or we share our talents. It was coined from an American Indian expression, Kiwani. Our original motto was we build, and Kiwanis, since its founding in 1915, has been building better communities in which to live, to work, to play, and to raise our children. And children remain the primary service emphasis of Kiwanis, hence our new motto, serving the children of the world. Easton Kiwanis was chartered in 1918, over 100 years ago, has through the years raised and given away over $1 million to child-focused organizations in the greater Easton area. Some of the recipients are the 3rd Street Alliance's STEM Lab, Boys and Girls Club of Easton Reading Oasis, Bachman Tavern Dry Goods Store, 5 Easton school-sponsored youth clubs when schools are meeting live, and now our Boys and Girls Club Playground. We have joined with all the Kiwanis clubs in the Pennsylvania district of Kiwanis International in giving $1 million to the Pennsylvania Kiwanis Foundation's Children's Heart Program at Children's Hospital at Geisinger in Danville. And our international dollars helped international projects throughout the world, such as iodine deficiency order. Recently, we joined forces with the Eliminate Project and now have almost eliminated neonatal tetanus worldwide. For when you join the local Kiwanis Club, you are a part of International Kiwanis family in 80 countries and geographic areas. Kiwanis has nearly 550,000 adult and youth members from K-Kids to Key Club to Kiwanis clubs and many ages in between. We all annually are raising more than $100 million and dedicating more than 18 million volunteer hours and providing nearly 150,000 service projects each year. Each community has different needs, and Kiwanis empowers members to pursue creative ways to serve the needs of children, such as fighting hunger, improving literacy, and offering guidance. As an Easton Kiwanian, we expect that you will make it a priority to attend these Wednesday meetings, followed by a short business meeting, and then usually a program of interest, and that you will join us in our fundraising efforts, our community service projects, and our social events. We want you to make Easton Kiwanis a habit, and those of us who have made Kiwanis a habit find it most rewarding and satisfactory. We would ask you that you wear this small round Kiwanis pin whenever you. All right, Bill, what'd you stick this with? Super glue?
Scotch tape.
Oh, okay. Wear this,
Awesome.
proudly wear this pin and so that you go around proclaiming proudly to the world that you are a Kiwanian, and that you wear your badge at our in-person live meetings, which has your first name in large letters. A Kiwanis tradition that no matter who you are, where you are, or what your station is in life, you are known to each and every Kiwanian on a first name basis.
Thank you.
And fellow Kiwanians and guests, it's my pleasure to introduce our newest Easton Kiwanian, Terry Houck. Normally we would sing to you, you're in Kiwanis now, but due to this being a Zoom meeting, we will dispense with this song. I have a packet here with a certificate suitable for framing, which interestingly enough is dated April 2nd, 2020,
Okay.
which when we actually voted to accept you as a member of our club, and now are finally getting around to inducting you as a new member.
Thank you.
So here is a packet. I will leave this certificate and the information with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now that Terry is
I'm
going to
honored.
be our guest presenter
Thank you.
today,
I'm honored. Thank you.
why, I will give you some background about Terry. so that he can then go into his presentation. Terry, with more than 32 years of prosecutorial experience, has spent 10 plus years in his prosecutorial career in the Bucks County District Attorney's Office, heading the Child Abuse and Sex Offense Unit, prosecuting hundreds of some of the most heinous crimes that land in the District Attorney's Office. Terry has since been a Chief Deputy District Attorney, Chief of Violent Crime Unit of Lehigh County, the Northampton County's first full-time first Deputy District Attorney under DA John Morganelli. As first Deputy DA of Northampton County, Terry has spent the last 13 plus years overseeing the entire staff of the District Attorney's Office, as well as managing all of the specialized units in the office, including child abuse, sex offense, violent crimes, DUI, grand jury, narcotics and forfeiture, white collar, juvenile, appellate, domestic violence units. He also personally handled an outgoing caseload of particularly high profile, difficult and sensitive cases. Terry has earned numerous awards and commendations across his career, including the Chaplain of the Four Chaplains Award for Bravery as a Philadelphia police officer, and an Allied Professional Award for Outstanding Commitment to Crime Victims from the Crime Victims Council of the Lehigh Valley. Terry lives with his wife of 40 plus years in Easton, Pennsylvania. He has 2 adult daughters and a granddaughter.
That's correct. That's correct.
So Terry,
All right.
I will leave this whole packet with
All right,
you,
well, thank you.
and I will let you do your thing.
All right,
I'm
thank
going to
you.
head home and jump on from my
All
house.
right, try to finish before you get there. Thank you. Thanks. And thank you for having me. Before I even started to say anything, I just want to let you know, and I'm sure you already know this, how important your work is. You know, through all this craziness, this pandemic and all the progressive issues that have been occurring over the past year or so, you know, things like crime and need and poverty, that continued. It didn't stop. And as much as we got misdirected sometimes on these issues, those other issues didn't stop. And it is groups like this that continue to work, not as noticed as you should be, to ensure that needy people, especially children, get what they need. And I thank you for that. And when Walt came to see me right after I was elected, I couldn't have been happier, and I couldn't have gotten myself involved in quicker. So thank you for having me. I was asked to talk a little bit about the first 100 days. The first 100 days now have turned into almost the first 400 days. You know, it whenever I hear somebody read what Walt just, I remember when I first heard, you know, my biography read out loud, I used to think how neat it was. Now all I'm thinking about is how old I am. I mean, it's crazy when I think about how long I've been around. You know, since I've been in law enforcement basically since 1977 as both a police officer and a prosecutor. And, you know, now that I'm in charge up here and I'm hiring young people like Brian's age who can't comprehend me being in this business back in 1977, it's just sometimes it's mind-boggling. But yeah, you know, it's been very interesting. You know, I had all these great ideas, all this stuff I was going to do when I was elected. You know, I right out of the chute after I was elected, I implemented a community outreach volunteer program for our district attorneys, and they very graciously accepted it. Not that they had a lot of choice, but they really liked the idea. And you know, we started, this was one of the things that I was adamant about when I was running. And we implemented this program where we reached out to the community and I let them choose their community venture. And they went for anywhere from food kitchens to SPCAs and things of that nature. And, you know, we were off and running, and then bang, you know, this pandemic hit, and it was just a crippler. So But, we forged on. And the one thing I didn't really expect is, as I ran for district attorney, I was running around saying how important experience was, and, how, I'm the guy because I was so experienced, but never, ever in a million years did I ever expect that I'd need every minute of my experience to do this job because of the pandemic. It absolutely has confronted us with issues that I have never seen before since I've been here. When the courts closed down, obviously this is the first time anything like that happened in my lifetime, and that includes Philadelphia, Bucks, Lehigh, and Northampton. There was a very strange reaction because everything went silent. Didn't stop crime. Crime didn't end. So we had to figure out a way to readjust our resources, because certain crimes like domestic violence and indoor type crimes went up. And then certain other crimes like DUI and things like that kind of went down because people weren't out on the street as much. So we had to go on the fly, and that we had to. I had to make sure that the police departments were manned. So we had to get a special court order signed that in the event that a police department, the smaller ones especially, went down because of the virus, that other police departments would be allowed to step in and have jurisdiction. So there were a lot of issues of first impression for us. But we managed that. And then of course we have from here, I instantly made sure everybody got a laptop computer so that they could work from home, because they had to continue working, but coming in wasn't the smartest thing in the world. So we had some presence in here, but everybody was hooked up and everybody was available by Zoom and IMs and things like that. So we managed to keep the office running at 100%, and we managed to stay healthy up to this point. I'm knocking on wood. And it's been working out very well. And then of course you throw in the whole George Floyd thing in the middle of all this, when there was this really tenuous type of atmosphere or environment nationwide with respect to law enforcement and things of that nature. And with the backdrop of the pandemic, it was very, very hairy, but we were lucky here in Northampton County. I can't tell you how lucky you are in the Lehigh Valley to have police officers that are accredited and trained and know how to handle instances like this, because nothing was exacerbated, nothing was made worse. People got their voice. People voiced their opinions. We listened to it. We tried to roll with it. We had some community conversations as a result of it with minority leaders and people that were concerned about what was going on nationwide. And we navigated our way through that as well without any real bumps on the road. And I'm very proud of our law enforcement community for that. Easton led the way. Bethlehem, they all did great. The rank and file right up through the entire county, and I was very proud of them for that. But at the same time, of course, our crime didn't stop, so we had to manage to keep doing our job. Affected by the prison population and things like that, we weren't allowed to have trials, and so for months, I was pushing to reopen safely once we were permitted to do that. And as a result, this county is at the forefront of the entire state, not because of me necessarily, but the president judge. And we were all in agreement that we had to open, and we did open. The complaints or the concerns that were raised prior to opening courts, like the virus would spread, we wouldn't get jurors, things of that nature, all turned out to be completely false. The jurors' response here in Northampton County was greater than prior to the pandemic. I guess people wanted to get out of their house. because they came here in droves, and they were very, very anxious to serve. And I've been doing this a long time, and we might have been the very first county to do a capital case in Pennsylvania since the pandemic hit, and it was a month-long trial. And I didn't get a single complaint from a juror that wanted to serve. We went through 140 some jurors, and they all wanted to serve. They were all very community minded, when they could have easily begged off, because if anybody had concerns about the virus, they were stricken. But no one did that, and I was very proud of them for that. And we wound up having this trial. There were no issues. We had to wear masks and things, which were no issues. And now our county's off and running. I think we've had 7 or 8 trials, a few civil trials, where we have other counties that remain crippled by this and haven't even opened yet. So our backlog is getting reduced. I'm really happy about that, because the defendant has a right to a speedy trial, and our victims' families have a right to get closure as well. So, it's a little slower now than it was, but we're doing really well. And the president judge is a big reason for that. Public defender's office, and of course the district attorney's office here has really been spearheading this as well. So we've been very fortunate through all this craziness. We're pretty much business as usual. As a side note to all this, there is always talk about prisons and inmates and the coronavirus affecting them. Well, in Northampton County, the safest place you can be for the virus is in the prison, because the prisoners have been very well kept over there. The inmates, there's been more breakouts among the guards and the prime care people than there has been with the actual inmates. And that's a tribute, of course, to the director. But it's been a very low number, and I think right now there's no breakouts at all. So they really did a good job on that as well. So that's what I've been doing, for my first 300 days, my first year. It's been a very weird year, because it's been, in many ways I couldn't do a lot of the things I wanted to do, but in other ways we did a lot of things that we never expected we would have to do. So, it's been crazy. I know, Brian, you had, with your across the hall there, you guys are just now opening, and you're getting some pushback for that, but I think it needs to be done. I think people, there are legitimate fears, but at the same time, when you come into this courthouse, you're safe. People are kept at distance, and the place is constantly cleaned, and so and there hasn't been any major outbreaks or anything, so it's going very well over here. Does anyone have any questions about anything with respect to our office, anything that we do? Any questions?
Terry, thanks for taking the time. This is James, and thanks for taking the time and coming to spend your lunch hour with us. We really, really appreciate it. We're delighted to have you as a member. As I might have mentioned in one of my emails to you, we had an active opioid task force here in Easton. And I'm just curious about what you've seen during the pandemic, specifically regarding the opioid crisis, and has it increased in our area or leveled off, or how's that going?
I should probably bring that up when I've done these Zoom meetings before, and this is always the first question, and then I always forget. This is a problem. I mean, I'd love to say it wasn't, but it's a problem. Opioid abuse. I've done a couple of things. First off, the first thing I did was I joined a civil suit against the pharmaceutical companies that were allegedly dispensing this stuff improperly and affecting our communities and stuff. And that's ongoing now. And that's a good first step because that's the stuff that's coming in is what's getting us. The other thing I did too is I increased our drug task force to deal with drug delivery resulting in death. Drug delivery resulting in death is a charge in and of itself. It's a homicide charge in and of itself, but it's very difficult to prove, obviously, because when there's a death by drug delivery, it's hard to prove who gave. But I sent the drug task force out to get special training for this, and now every time someone dies of an overdose, we treat it, at least initially, as a crime, in order to see if we can't track down how this stuff is getting in, who's doing it, because they have a tendency of affecting us in numbers. When one person dies, then drugs aren't usually just given to one person; they're given out to multiple people, and so we try to get on it as soon as somebody passes from this, and then just go backwards. And it's been very successful so far. We've had a number of arrests for drug delivery resulting in death that I'm convinced would have increased the numbers had we not done that. But I think the numbers have, I don't know if they've gone up or if just the reporting has gone up, James, because of this pandemic. It wouldn't surprise me if the numbers have gone up a little bit, because everybody is a captive audience in this pandemic. So they're staying inside. They're better hidden inside. They're not outdoors. And we seem to be getting a lot of issues with drugs. I mean, Noxalone really knocked this out when we first started getting the Noxalone here in the office and distributing to the police. It really helped bring these people back. But at the same time, it wasn't solving the problem of drugs. And we started to attack that, I would say, more aggressively in the last year or so. So I'm hoping that turns it around. And there are pockets. It's not like all over the place. There's pockets in Northampton County that we can attack with intel. And we're doing that also in conjunction with Lehigh County. So is there more? Maybe there is. There's certainly more reporting of it.
I have a question, Terry.
Yeah.
You had a lot of experience in the area and also around the Northampton County. How do you compare the crime rate in Northampton County, Lehigh, Berks, and Bucks County? How do you see that?
Well, Philadelphia, of course, was the worst. I was there for almost 10 years as a cop, and that was just off the charts. And now it's just ridiculous down there. Bucks County, I was the chief of the child abuse unit down there, and there was a surprisingly large number of cases, a lot of teacher-student stuff, things of that nature. The interesting thing about sex offenses is it crosses all economic boundaries. It's not, when you see property crime and things like that, it's usually more affected by lower income areas. That is not the case. I would say Bucks County was busier from the three counties between Lehigh, Bucks, and Northampton. And up here, with respect to child abuse crimes and stuff, very well-trained officers, very well-trained children and youth agencies. So we're getting to this early. I guess back in my early Bucks County days, the reports that children were making went unheeded. When I used to give talks to families about child abuse and things like that, they used to be flabbergasted and shocked by the statement that I used to make that 80% of the spouses, 80% of the spouses that are married to people accused by their children will take the side of their spouse and not the child. And everybody was so outraged by that. That would never be me. That would never be me. But the simple fact was that 8 out of 10 husbands or wives that were married to the accused, somebody that was accused by the daughter, took the side of their spouse. And they did so because they wanted to believe it was a lie, because they were dependent on the spouse. I mean, there was always a lot of reasons. I think that we've gotten away from that in the last few years, and the investigations up here have allowed those numbers to be a lot smaller, Roger. So I think we're better off.
That doesn't exactly answer my question. How does the crime rate compare in those 4 areas, or those 4 counties, as you see it? At one time, there was a word out that the gangs were coming into Reading and all this stuff way back, establishing. I don't know if these things have changed or not.
Oh, okay. You talk about the overall crime rate.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did misunderstand your question. Reading's Berks County is the worst because of Reading, and that continues. They continue to be a plague there. Bucks County is almost non-existent with gangs. Lehigh would probably be second because they have a 2 or 3 gangs that are over here, and I would say that we're probably right above Bucks County. Now, when I first got here, we had a problem with the Bloods, and that was our biggest problem. Coming out of Newark and New York, we managed to kind of derail that a little bit, but we saw a little spike right as the pandemic was hitting again, Roger, where we had some younger kids now stepping up. One example was the Money Rules Everything gang out of Bethlehem, strictly out of Bethlehem. Bunch of kids, actually, middle school, high school kids that were very violent. We managed to get to that real quick. And although I wouldn't say here our gang problem is non-existent, it is significantly less than it was, I would say, as little as 10 years ago. So it exists. It's probably just one gang, maybe 1.5. Every now and then we get some New York Crips in here, but we managed to sit on it pretty good. Yeah.
How's the new forensic lab? I mean, I realize it's just recently operational, but that's going to be definitely helpful, I'm sure.
Well, it's going to be helpful for the coroner. You know, the forensic lab is used for more as a morgue. We have a very prolific regional crime center out of Allentown that we use, and we also have a phone download place called the Petzold Center that's out of the Sales. And we've been up with them and running for 2 or 3 years now, and they're excellent. The morgue, though, will be a real help because prior to the forensic center being opened, our coroner, Zach Lysick, basically had to do these things at whatever hospital the person was brought into. The forensic lab would be a big help because it'll be a one-stop shop, so to speak, for the forensic pathologist. We haven't seen any direct results yet because it's so new, but I can tell you it's been a godsend for us.
Terry, I was wondering if you're seeing much in the way of white collar crime, elder crime, fraud as compared to some of the other types of crimes.
Yeah, that was a problem. Obviously, when the internet exploded, that became a huge problem. And over the years, we've been whittling away at that. It still exists. It's still a problem with the elderly because they keep trying to, these thieves keep trying to think of new ways to, work online, work anonymously, work through the mail. But it has reduced, Ken, over the years and that strictly has to do with education. Everybody doing their part to try to see when something isn't kosher. I mean, the scams that we see that are affected, and when we hear them, we think they sound silly, but they get people all the time. A person will get a call and they'll call like senior centers, things like that. And so they'll know who their audience is. They'll know who they're talking to. And they'll say that they're a lawyer and for their grandchild and that they have the grandchild in custody. And he just hit somebody in his car and he needs bail money right away. And they start getting upset right away. And they'll make 100 of these calls to get one. But when they get one on the hook, they'll get thousands of dollars from the person who thinks they're giving bail money out for a grandson. And they just, they manage to just get information from the people that are on the phone. But I mean, it's a simple fix. If they don't, you just say, what's my grandson's name? Or what's my granddaughter's name? And they won't be able to give it. They try to draw it out of you. And people are learning from these experiences not to stay on the phone with these people, to recognize, when it's fraudulent, and you'll know 2 sentences in, but the people that get tricked by this are the people whose emotions get the better of them immediately. By thinking, oh man, because everybody's got the one grandson or granddaughter. It's just a pain in the ass. We all have one. I got 4 brothers like that, and right away you're thinking, what did they do now? and that's when you get hooked, because they manage it. But everybody's got one, you got to admit it, but make them tell you who it is. Don't you tell them. And but everybody's getting real educated on that, Ken. And I think it's been a lot better, but it still happens. It still happens.
I have to tell you, Terry, when I get ready to set up for these meetings, I do a little research if I can, and that's why the national anthem is one that I found that I thought was great because it was at the courthouse. But then also on the Facebook, when I put the notice out, I always try to put some kind of pictures in it. A couple of them that I didn't add that I had ready was a lawyer is a noun. It's an individual who does precise guesswork based on unreliable data provided by those of questionable knowledge. I kind of like that one.
There you go.
And the other one I didn't put out there was a good lawyer knows the law. A great lawyer knows the judge.
Well, there's a little saying that we learned in law school, like the first year, and that's if you have the facts, you pound the facts. If you have the law, you pound the law. And if you have neither, you pound the table. And that's pretty much what we do. So, it's either way, we're yelling and screaming about something. So, but yeah. Any other
Terry,
questions?
do you do actual litigation right now, or do you have staff that you assign cases and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question, James. One of the things that was very important to me when I was running was that the district attorney has to lead by example. So yes, I have a caseload. It's the more serious cases, obviously, but I find it's very important for me to go into court as an example to the rest of the DAs. So as I said at the top of my presentation, I did a capital case, which is a murder case, in November. It lasted about a month. It ended right before Christmas. And we were the first, I believe we were the first ones in the state to do it since the pandemic. And I thought it was important that I be the guy to do it. So yes, I keep a caseload. I mean, it can be difficult, but I think it's very, very important to the rest of the ADAs that I do that. And for those of you who don't know, our office, it consists of about 22 assistant district attorneys. And we have about 8 or 9 county detectives that assist us in probably 30 or 40 administrative staff. So, and we go into court we have a court week once a month in which trials are litigated, but we're in court doing other things all during the month. So, so yeah, I feel it's important, at least from my perspective, my personal opinion, to carry my own caseload.
Terry, I have a quick question. Remind me again the law you were talking about for death by overdose. You were going after.
In Pennsylvania, Jacqueline, I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but in Pennsylvania, there is a homicide charge called drug delivery resulting in death. It carries a maximum sentence of 40 years, and it's a homicide crime. If you can prove who provided the person that died with the drugs that killed them, then there need be nothing else proven. I don't have to prove that he forced the guy to take them or anything like that. It's not a consent issue. It's just this is the guy that gave him the drugs that killed him. And so obviously the first thing you have to determine from the person that passes away is how they died. And then it's okay, they died of a drug overdose, and then you have to get a toxicology on the drugs if it was fentanyl. So now we know the person died of an overdose of fentanyl. Now the next question, and always the most difficult question, is who provided the fentanyl? And that's a very difficult question because your best witness is dead. But if we can show that, and we try in every case, then that's a homicide crime of drug delivery resulting in death.
Well, my question is, I was recently looking for a new primary care physician, and having served on the board of directors for the Richmond Association of Realtors, I knew that there was a board for doctors. because one of the young ladies in my church was executive assistant there. So I'm looking online trying to find a doctor, and I did find one, orthopathic doctor. I haven't been to him yet. I got an appointment next week, but I also wanted to be sure that their record was clear.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, it is amazing. First of all, I did not know that there is a special drug treatment program for doctors and nurses, the medical profession. And there was one doctor on there writing prescriptions for you name it, using another doctor in his former practice and signing that person's name to give out. And I mean, it was some wild things going on in the last 90 days here in Virginia. I didn't say 9 years, I said 90 days. So,
Right.
well, I guess my question is, do you all have that problem, or would this law apply the same to a doctor as well as a street?
Yeah, it applies to everybody. It applies to everybody. And the problem with doctors is a little bit different. But we also, the state has a body that investigates doctors, Attorney General's office, but I wouldn't hesitate to do that either if a doctor was abusing his position. So yeah, it's the same exact thing. It's just that they would do it. They would actually commit the crime in a different
You're
way. But
freezing up.
yes. Pardon me? Yes, but we would.
You were freezing up a little bit.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, yes, we do have that law here, and we would pursue it. It's done in conjunction with the Attorney General's office of Pennsylvania as well. So yeah, there's a close eye kept on doctors, and usually the bigger cities have the issue. When they do have the issue, Philadelphia, maybe Pittsburgh, we don't see it much in these parts, but we're vigilant about it.
We're getting a lot of it.
Yeah, I'll bet. I mean, if they can think of a way, they'll think of one, Jacqueline. It's just the way it is, It's just the way it is.
Anybody else have any questions?
I've got another question related to the drug delivery resulting in death. So if you learn of a drug overdose and the person died,
Yeah.
There might be another person that was involved with that person. Say it was a boyfriend and girlfriend, or two people who were together, and somebody brought them the drugs, but that person, gave his girlfriend or boyfriend the drug. He wasn't the source of the drugs per se. He's not the dealer. He or she was not the dealer. And, but that person gave that other person the drug, and then that person died. Is that person, is that person is someone who would be prosecuted for?
Both of them would be on the hook for the same crime. You'd have the overall drug dealer, even though they didn't directly give it to the victim. If they gave it to a party who gave it to the victim, and we could prove that, remember, proof is the most important thing. We could prosecute them both. But James, you pinpointed a problem in this situation. Is most of the time, the one that gives the drugs to the victim is another junkie that could have just as easily been killed by those same drugs. You know what I mean? It's just that person just happened to be the one that lived, and the other person died.
Yeah.
So in situations like that, it's easier to prove, but it's more difficult to prosecute, because although they are guilty of this, they're not the problem, so to speak. And we do try to back it down with phone records, statements from this person, and if I could get to somebody bigger, and I know I could, then I would probably do something with the case of the intermediary there. That way, that person would be a witness against the bigger drug dealer. We got a couple of those going on right now.
Yeah, I can see that could be a problem where that person's addicted and not the supplier of the
Yes.
of the substance.
But at the same time, they have to know, that if they're going to hand drugs to somebody, even if they're addicted, that this is a serious matter, and they have to understand that that's the case, because normally when you get one of these people, they will not tell you who their supplier is and stuff. And this can be a handy tool to talk with them about who it is that's bringing this poison in. And it's worked,
Yeah.
to some extent.
Is there any kind of measures or philosophy being advanced to try to get these people into treatment or rehabilitation as opposed to prosecution? I know there's a drug court. Do you
All the
have
time.
any interaction with
All
the
the
drug court or?
Yes. I actually increased our drug court presence as soon as I get in, because drugs are probably responsible for 60% of our crime. Our property crimes, our violent crime, and stuff like that. So now you're talking about a whole different scenario when somebody lives through a drug. Now, we're educating people on the need to call the police when somebody ODs, because when they do, we don't prosecute you. Okay, that's the law permits that. In addition, we have a drug court which we've greatly expanded, in which a person can go into this drug court if their crime was a result of a drug problem, drug addiction, which they got to show proof for, and then they can put them in that, as opposed to just doing time. They can put them in a treatment vein where they can face this issue and hopefully overcome it. And it's met with some success. It has its problems, but it's also met with some success. So yes, James, we do try to deal with the addicted when we can, when they're out there committing violent crime and things of that nature, separate and apart. Then we have a problem.
Yeah, Terry, we are so happy that you came and you were a part of our meeting today, and we are happy that you are an Easton Kiwanian.
And so am I.
We're looking forward. And Terry was on our meeting with, as far as our police award that will be given out in May. So he is taken on, he's definitely participated in the last meeting, and we're looking forward to him helping us out as far as that's concerned. Everyone for joining in with us today. We hope you have a fantastic week. Stay safe. The snow is coming, so we're so appreciative of all of you. And Walt, thank you so much for taking care of what you needed to take care of with the induction. You did a great job. We wished we were right there with you in, is that Japan? Is that Japan?
Someday.
And everybody make it a great week. Ring the bell.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Terry, for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.